Welcome to another chapter. In this chapter, we're going to implement a real-time chat in MJ Coffee app. And you may ask why? The reason is that I'm going to restrict some of the features in this chat, and some of the screen depends on the user's roles and permissions. We're going to talk about authorization. And this is the first step. We need to have something to play around. We're going to implement stream chat. Let's get into the code base here. I was looking around for a quick solution, and of course, I found stream chat for Flutter. I think this is going to be a good one for me for now. Let me open up the stream chat for you quickly. There is the UI and, well, what they do, and, all the examples. I'm particularly interested in the Flutter implementation. There is the documentation. You can actually go to the Chat SDK. We're going to just implement Chat SDK. There are a bunch of documentation pages, and whole a lot of things that you can read. You have even tutorials. So that's fine. I just gonna go and actually quickly have like maybe a tutorial here. You can look at this, like how you can implement that. I've already done that, to be honest, several times. Well, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just tell you how you can do it quickly instead. So first thing first is that you need to have an account. If you don't have an account, go ahead and have an account. I already have, to be honest, an account, and I will just go and log in with my account. So, but that's good. I'm gonna log in, not a problem. But let's implement chat stream. Let's go back to my code. What you need to do here, you go to pub/spec.yaml. We need to have a couple of dependencies here, in fact. The most important dependency is, again, I'm going to open up my add dependencies from Dart package and search for stream chat Flutter. This is going to give me not only the core functionality, but also some UIs. For my application, I also need UI. So then let's go and have that. If you want just the basic without UI, the core is what you want. But I want with UI. So I'm going to go with that. And that is going to be good enough for me. However, there are a bunch of things that you need to take into account. I'm going to actually open pub.dev stream chat. Stream chat Flutter. So take a look at this. Let's make it bigger. This is the SDK. As you can see right now, this is on version 3, and and that is supporting a whole lot of things. And there is also a pre-beta right now, version 4. So what we want to do, we want to implement this, and we're going to just want to get a token here, a registration. I told you I will show you how, and add this, and that's it. So in Android, everything is fine, but in iOS, it says it's going to use Flutter file picker. So then you need to go to this and read the wiki to set up the permission for iOS requirements. Video player, then you need to find this guide. And then the image picker, then you need to also find this instruction. So these are very important to follow in order to get your application running properly on iOS if you're using a stream chat Flutter. So I don't think I'm going to bother this right now. These are just a few minor implementation, very easy one. So I just gonna leave that to you. But we're gonna go and talk about the authorization part, because that's the one that I want. So this is a basic example. We're gonna follow these examples. If you have not done that before, don't worry about it. We're gonna just spend some time together and implement that. Let me now go to the application here. Everything looks fine. I added everything, and then everything should work right now. What we wanna do is we go to now to the stream an account. If you don't have, then I showed you how to create an account. Create an account and make sure that you are creating an application. So I actually had an account and I logged in, and this is the dashboard that I see. So I already created two applications, this one and my MJ Coffee app. And you look at this right now, these two applications are up and running and I can use them. I need this key. But if you don't have an application, what you need to do here, you just need to go to create an application, give it a name like whatever name, and choose a server, usually typically, well, the closest one to you. Let's say I'm in Europe and then I say EU West. And that's for chat and storage and feed and all the services that they have. I chose like the same thing. And well, do you want to clone something? No, I don't want to do that right now. I have two others, but I don't want to clone anything. And then it's a good practice to have one application for development and one for production. And that's the reason I have two right now, if you look at it right now. So that's the way you create an application. Once you do that, then you get your key and an app ID and a secret. So this secret is very important and it's not actually revealed here, and very important. We're going to use it not in Flutter, but in our backend. We'll see that in the next video. But for now, we're just going to implement our chat. I'm going to go and implement my chat. This is the one that I'm going to use right now. So hopefully you know now these. As if I go right now to MJ Coffee, so this is a new UI. You look at this, these are pretty self-explanatory. I don't need to explain anything. You see the usage, everything that, a lot of things that you can find out here, filter, and, anything. So explore, you can even see the channels and chats and everything's. So some of them are encrypted, some of them not. So that's pretty much it. So now let's go back to my application and implement this chat, see how it works. Let's do that together. Good. So now we are going to, well, I told you that you need to copy the app ID as well as the key ID. So those things that I showed you that you need to copy. So, but then what you need to do, you need to add that to your command line when you open up the application or wherever you store your environment. So here's the things. I want to actually implement the production ready application. I'm going to use my production application that I created on a stream. And I go to my launch.json for VS Code. Again, whatever you define your environment, if you're passing with Dart define, we already passed that for auth0. So I'm going to actually do the same thing. Copy this and define my, stream keys and stream key that I told you. So then I'm going to say here, in this case, stream API key. So that's what I need. And the key was this one. So I'm just going to paste this here. So now in this case, I defined my stream API key that I told you. What I do next is I go to my constant. You remember we already actually get auth domain and client ID, which we define with Dart define. I will do the same for stream key, a stream API key. Stream, or let's do it this way, API key. That's going to be this. So now that is good. Why do we need that? Because you need to connect user via this key. So then Stream knows which application this user is going to be connected. So it's very important to have this key. So let's go back. So, well, to integrate this, I already created another service named chat service. I want to keep everything related to the chat to this service. Again, that is going to be an singleton service. Well, for now, we keep this as is. But later, and at the end of the course, when we are implementing some kind of state management, we're going to move away from this pattern and adding a little bit, better pattern. But for now, only one service, a singleton service, dealing with all the chat things that we need to do. But the first thing we need to do, we need to create a client. So the client will look like, well, that's the thing. I'm going to just go and say like stream. Let's say this is going to be a client. That's good. And stream, the package is providing a constructor says stream client. So I need to create that to communicate with the API, the SDK. That requires API key. And that is exactly what you need to pass, stream API key. So in this case, then let's actually import this. So this is going to be my client, my chat client. One thing that I think I noticed here is very nice is that you can also check the log level. So there are a bunch of properties on this, a bunch of things that you can do. And one thing that I really like is this, the log level. It's already on warning, but what you can do, you can say if it's I think we already create a debug. So if it's debug, if it's in debug mode, we already created this function. Then go and say level from this package is like very detailed. Otherwise, a level is off. Actually, for production, do not do anything. These are the things that you can definitely do here. Let's actually keep it there. So the first probably thing is that now you need to connect a user. So as a stream is showing is, well, user is logged in. You need to connect it to the client. So what is the current user? That is the important part. Where I added here as option 3, so as a comment. We're going to create a connect user. So then connect user is going to accept an auth0 user. Why? Then because I need the ID of the user, the unique identifier, and I get that from my OAuth, implementation, from my, authentication server. So I will pass the user here. Then in this case, I have access to name. This is the profile that I received. You remember, we have done this in the previous video. If you are coming to this video for the first time, you might want to go and watch the previous video to see how we handled this part. So then, here is the case. We're going to go and connect this user. We're not able to call this without having a user at all. So this is always must be present. There should not be null. So in fact, if you say like that, then you need to make sure you don't do anything if there is no user because there's no ID. So then the client will come with a bunch of functions. And one of them would be connect user. You can even have guest user. That's nice things to do, right? But we want to do actually the connect user. So the connect user accept user. So let's see what is user. It's actually a user object or user class. That's good. And it accepts a few things. And the requirement is the ID. That's a good thing. Let's do the ID here. User.id. You remember I told you that we're going to go and do the ID on user. That's a getter. In fact, in our auth0, the ID is the sub. So the unique identifier. That is actually good enough for this service. Let's have it formatted. Also formatted like that. So that is good enough. But a few more things that we can do. For example, on user, you have extra data where you can pass, I think, image. It was one of the things that you can do. At least you can have a picture of user. I'll show you how it will look like shortly. And then a name for the user. These are the good things that you can definitely do. And I recommend you to do that because it's going to look nice on the UI part of it. And lastly is the token. So this token is for the user token that the server, the stream server, is stamping or like it's signing that for you. For production, you need to have the secret code from client in a stream application that you created. You remember I told you this is not revealed. This is exactly what you need. You need to pass this ID with that secret. You generate a key and pass it to your client. This must not be in Flutter because the secret is very sensitive. You are not going to add that to your Flutter application or any mobile application. So you need to do it in server side. That's the things we're going to cover in the next video when we are generating production key with the secret in GitHub, in Auth0 actions. You can do that in any server. Watch the next video for that. But for now, there is a handy method that you can request for a developer token, and that's the dev token function. So this is for just development. You're not able to ship your application with this. You need to have like the production token for that. But for now, for testing, that is perfectly fine. So I'm gonna pass my user ID, and you will need to get the user raw value. The raw value of this token, and pass that to your connect user. So I just want to make a note here that replaced with production token in prod, and we'll do that in the next video. So now, so far it's good. This is actually a feature returning own user. That's fine. Then I'm gonna just have it async feature, and that is going to return, well, in this case, well, we're gonna just return the same user that we have, maybe an auth0 user. We don't need this own user, and I can just wait for this at least here. And once it's finished, I'm just gonna return the user that we had. What it does now, it's going to connect this user and to the stream chat, and then we can continue doing the rest of the things. All right, but when should we call this connect user? That's a good question. This must be done after login or after the user is initiated. There are two ways that we can do. One is that we can go to auth service, in where we get the local. If you have watched the previous video, if you have not, then we created the local variables that is taking care of the validation of the token and the rest of the things. Probably you can connect your user in this case, but that makes these services to be very coupled. Another thing that you can do, in fact, you can do it in repository or maybe in, state management somewhere, but we don't have that yet. We only have 2 layers right now. Another thing that we can do, we can go to where we are calling our login. So in this case, when we get the result from login, we're 100% sure that user now is available, right? So I can actually come here and I can just say chat service instance, and then I can connect, well, my user. And what is my user? It's not actually result, because result is returning a string, but it's going to be, let's say, user info. It's going to be auth service instance and profile, the one that we set that together. So in this case, I'm gonna pass this here. All right, let's look at this here. We are accepting this auth0 user, but in fact, the profile is nullable. So there are 2 ways to fix that. And either we can go here and say it might not be a user. In this case, you need to 100% sure if it's not null, or if it's null, just maybe through an exception, or maybe again, in this case, when we have this part, we have result, then we are 100% sure, like if it's successful, then we are 100% sure we have user profile. Everything went very smoothly. So in this case, I'm pretty sure that I have this. So in fact, I can just go and say if success, then I want to do this. Good. That's when we are logged in. Then I explicitly hit the login button. But another thing here is that we have also when user is like coming to the application, that case we're just using refresh token, for exchanging, and we smoothly silently relog in user. In that case, we have where we connected our init function here on the main function. This is another thing that you should do. You should probably come here, and after init function, you need to make sure you are going to, you need to have like this here. You need to also say when is everything is fine, successful, then please get the profile and set my user. So these are the things that you can do right now. But as you see right now, there is a duplication and, so on and so forth. Maybe there is a better way. Well, yes, of course, there are better ways. We're going to take care of that at the end of this series when we are refactoring some part. But for now, either I can go with this way, or I can just make my service a little bit coupled. But for now, I keep this because I want to add a state management at some point, and I will move this part to that layer. So far, so good. Then I can just refresh. I just want to make sure everything is working, and looks like then everything is working. And if you look at this right now, we get some errors. API key is not provided. This is actually coming from Stream package. Why do you think this is not provided? Because I did not stop my application and restart at all. Because I provided that via the Dart define in this case. So I need to stop and restart again. I will fast forward this until the application is up and running, and I'll come back to you. All right, now that the application has been restarted, so you see that is up and running. Let's take a look at the debug console. Yeah, seems like everything is working except that I got an error that is coming from the package, stream package, and it says, well, user details.id is not a valid user ID. It must be AZ0 to 9 @ and dash are allowed. Okay, there is something wrong with my user ID. Let's take a look at my user ID right now. Let's debug it right now. This is my user ID. I'm going to just print this out to make sure what I have. So let's say this is user ID, and let's see what is user ID. If I restart again, this time hot restart, I must see that printed out here. There we go. Hola. So the problem here is that I have one of these characters which is not allowed apparently in a stream as a user ID. I need to think about it, like how to fix this. However, it mentions I can have underscore or dash. Maybe I should just turn this to underscore instead. So in this case, I keep the user ID with just one change. So we can do that, but we need to remember that if we change this right now here, later for production app, we also need to change that. So let's do that right now. But well, in the next video, we'll also take care of the backend part of it. But then, okay, so there I had this problem. I think this is very unique to probably use to Auth0, because you get the ID with this, character, extra character, and that's very Auth0. You might not have this problem in your application or your backend, for example. But let's do that. How can we do that? I can go to user author user, and you remember that I had this sub here, maybe I can say, please split with this sign, and then I can actually join it with nothing, maybe. That could also work, or maybe with underscore. I think I'm gonna go with nothing. So in this case, then let's go there, have this. I'm gonna just remove that part, maybe. You can do that even by removing, by having some regex, replace, or whatever else. Yeah, there you go. So now I have like no character, and there is no error anymore. Let's copy this, because now this must be somehow connected somewhere, like in stream. I'm not adding this person to anywhere, but then you need to make sure that you're adding that to in order to understand if this user is going to be able to use the chat. But let's add a UI for the chat quickly. What we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the material part. There you go. So the main part. So let me quickly check out the documentation on the stream chat here. Yes. So then a stream chat is telling me that in material app, like here, there is a builder. Yes. Which is going to in fact wrap everything on top of this builder, right? So then we're gonna have this builder, which is context and child. There you go. And this must return some kind of like, let's say, region. So let's see what we can do here. Let me look at the example here. That's good. All right. It says if you want to actually return this, you must return stream chat. Okay. Then let's do that. Return stream chat. And that's good by itself. And then we must have a child for that, which is going to be my child in here. And then we also must have clients. All right. I see what the client is chat service instance.client. This is the client. And because we already are kind of even connecting the service here, that is going to automatically set up the client and then going to connect to the user. So then in fact here in this point in run app, we already have this client ready because it's just after this point. So just make sure that this client is available when you're passing this down here. So we will deal with that later with stream, with some kind of state management. But for now, I think we're good. There is one more thing. I think this should be enough. Let's see what is missing. I'm going to import this. It seems nothing else is missing. And I am already good. But the documentation says if you want theming data, you can also have theming and then copy that and so on and so forth. I don't think I want to deal with that right now because theming is not our main point here. All right. So now we have our application wrapped with stream chat. Now I think I can go to support and make this one available. Let's see. I have my menu, which is going to have this tab. All right, so if you look at this right now, so it's always returning community view and chat view. In fact, what I'm gonna do here is that this community view is supposed to be like a list of channels that my employee can see and open and, and go and answer. And then the chat view is going to be like the support chat view for like it's a one-to-one. It's my customer and then my agent, my employee, let's say. Let's comment this out and then instead just replace chat view. Let's have the chat view first implemented and then we move on. let's see what we need to do. So here is the chat view. I created an stateful widget because, well, the state is going to change. I need profile, I need, channel ID and stuff like that. So let's implement that. I see that now everything is here. I'm going to implement that. So what we need to do is we need to, in fact, let me just even to make it a bit better, I just call it like support chat page. So then we have a better name here. So what we want to do, we want to have the customer ID to have a one-on-one, solution. And we also need a profile. We need like user profile because we want like name, ID, and things like that. So, but before that, maybe I can move on to the chat section instead. So let's see what we can do here. This is just a placeholder. I'm just gonna remove this, the entire thing. Well, that's the things. Now we're gonna implement chat here. So there will be something here like waiting for a channel to join and like maybe customer ID to join. But then let's implement quickly here a chat. I'm just gonna go and say, well, this is a page. I'm gonna scaffold it first. I'm gonna have the like body maybe. Let's implement the app bar later. And then in the body, in the documentation says here, I need to use channel, like stream channel. That's good. I'm just reading from the documentation, by the way. It's just moving fast. And then that is requiring a channel. All right. So we need some kind of channel here. Let's define it here. Like it must be maybe in a string of channel. It actually not. Let's see what is the type. It's actually a channel type. All right. So that is going to be a channel type. So let's say if the channel type, because that cannot be null. So if the channel type is null, then show waiting. Otherwise, then show that stream. So we're going to fix that. So there is also one child here that I need to pass. Let's fix that. So what kind of child I need to pass is I need to say, so in fact here, what I want to show. So that is going to be, I want to have in the stream chat, I want to have maybe, let me think about it. Okay, we need maybe a body of the chat and also the button inputs of the chat. So then in the documentation, it mentions that I can just say simply a column. That is nice. A child here. And the first one could be like, well, in fact, message list. Well, that's very nice. It's already like created for me. Doesn't need to have anything. But then this must, because it's column, it must be use rapid with expanded actually to make sure that we don't get the overflow problem. So there we go. And then another one, like because I want to take a space up the entire screen, and then the very button must be the inputs. That's why I use expanded. And then I'm gonna just use input message inputs. So I think this is by default is good enough. So here in this case, it says this cannot be null. Like of course, in this case. So okay, so what we are using that as nullable, but we want to come here and say if, because we're checking that it's null, we're 100% sure this is not null here in this case. So that is good. That is well, it's going to show something for me. However, we don't have channel. Let's see how can we create a channel here. So let's say, well, I just wanna maybe here define a channel. Let's say I'm gonna just create when I have the initial state, I just wanna create a channel. Like every time you come to this page, we're gonna create a channel between you and the employee. So this is going to be a function here. Let's go and a little bit down. and here define my create channel. Again, we will come back to this part. We will refactor it to move that to another layer, hopefully in a repository or using some kind of state management to handle this. But for now, I think it's good for me. So to create a channel, a support channel, I think I'm going to go and actually do that, not here, but in the service, because it makes sense to go there. I might just want to use it somewhere else as well, right? And actually it resides to that layer, not to the presentation layer. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to go to chat service, and then I'm going to go and create a support channel in this case. All right. So let's see. I already probably defined create a support channel. Yeah, I'm going to just define it here. Just say create support channel, just the one that we did, and that's going to be a sync. How can we create a channel? Well, a channel must be between two persons or several persons, but in this case, we want to tie it between two persons, an employee and a user that is already logged in, right? So then one thing I need is definitely employee ID. I'll tell you what we do with this employee ID. As of now, let's just keep it root employee ID or test employee ID. Right? Just let's keep it simple for now. But later, we will actually define a function that is going to retrieve a list of employees based on employee's role, and you get that employee that is available for chat. How cool is that? Wait for it in the next videos. But for now, we're just gonna make this function to work. Now we want to get a channel. So in fact, in clients, we have this channel. Okay, there is actually a channel method, which I'm going to use here. All right, so I'm going to use this channel. It requires me to pass a type. All right, type is a string, and then an ID and an extra data. All right, I'll tell you this. If you go to stream right now, let me bring up the stream dashboard. And if you go to the application that you created, so then you see there is a function, like in the dashboard of the application, there is like a custom channel type. I think already you're going to have something by default, like e-commerce, gaming, live stream, messaging, and team. And you can also have support. If you don't see support, just go ahead and add a custom channel name. Let's say support or whatever it is, and then give that permission that you requires, whatever is required based on these things. These are very simple. You probably don't need to change anything. And then save it. Then you're going to get a type of channel. So that is support. So let's go back, and now I know that my channel type is going to be support. I will just pass it as support. I can also pass some extra data here. It says it's going to be a map, as it says. Yeah, it's a map of string objects. And one thing I can do definitely is the name of this channel. Well, let's call it MJ Coffee Support. That is going to be shown on the head bar of the chat. It's going to be very nice, in fact. And then let's have another thing here. Another thing that is very important is who is going to be inside this channel. And we want to tie that to two person only. And in fact, that is going to be member property, which is going to be an array. A list of employee ID, your employee ID, and user. And your user is in fact already connected, right? You can now get it from client here. That's the nice things that you can get. So you have state on client, that's stream client, and then you're gonna have user And then you're going to have actually user, and then you're going to have ID. So, well, it says, user might be null, but then I'm pretty sure because I connected user, if I call this function, it's definitely not null anymore. There is apparently some depreciation here. Let's take a look at that. Oh, we can actually use current user instead of this. So let's actually use that. Current user. But that's nice. So now I know I'm creating a chat between this ID and this user. And this employee ID must be also using the app connected, so then they will be somehow connecting and they can start communicating inside the app. So once that is set, then I'm going to go and say, now I have my channel. Then I need to wait or watch for the messages. So there is a watch, function here. And lastly, well, I can return my channel. So now I created a channel, I watch the messages, and then that's the channel I'm going to return. So then, in fact, this method is going to have future channel. One more thing that I recommend you to do is to always keep their current channel ID. Because then when your user is switching back and forth between pages, you don't necessarily need to create channels. You just need to pass a current channel ID probably. So maybe what you can do here, you can just create like a current channel ID, and then that could be like for now it could be null, that could be string, probably null, and then here you can actually store that, like it could be channel.id. Yes, that's a string. Well, at least you know the current channel ID. So I think that's a good thing to do. You will need that later. So now I go back to my support page. So the support page under screens that I created, right? So this page, I created a channel function here because I wanted to call it on initial state, and I want to wait for that. So here is the case. Now I can just go and in fact call this function here and then have the channel ready. So let's see. If say my channel is going to be, let's do that actually. I can say the channel is going to be awaiting of chat service instance dot create support channel. So this is going to define this channel. All right. So what we can do right now, well, this is definitely something that we need to change a state for, right? If we don't change a state, then this is not going to change and we don't see anything. Well, I think the simple trick, it will be just call this set state. That's pretty much it. Or you can just call the entire thing there. Like both are pretty much in this scenario same. So I'm going to just go and restart because we added a bunch of things, state and things like that. And see now if my support is coming up. So yeah, there we go. The support is coming up. I see a page, no chat yet. I see the messages. I see a bunch of actually, that's nice. I see a bunch of, command here. I'm not going to click on this because that requires, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned you need to add a few permission and things. If I click on them, then I will just probably have some problem. But what I can do, I can just probably work a bit with that. So I can say disable attachment. That is the attachment one for file picker. I just say by default, I think I want to disable that. Let's see if it's, yeah, there you go. It's now moving away. So you don't see it here anymore. And then let's have, what else we can do? We can have send button location. Like, well, now you see this button location and action location are kind of outside. Maybe we can move them inside. well, these are the things that you can also do here. Send button location to inside, for example. Let's look at that. Look at this. Now it's much better, I think. And actions locations, probably I want that also to be inside. Then I have like a full, you know, full input. That's much better. That's the one I want. And maybe show command button. Yeah, maybe I don't want that, or maybe I don't want that. So anyway, so these are the things you can do, and you will see later. Like I will just be able to, based on authorization, give some of these permission or remove some of these permissions. You'll see that in the next videos. So far, we managed to add this support. That's very good. So we managed to have a support chat, and I can actually start writing. And if I go and log in with the other user, which I will do in the next videos, you will see that we can start communicating quickly. But don't forget, we still have something to do in the next videos, and that is going to be replacing this employee ID with someone that is from our list, an ID that is accepted. All right, we already added a basic of support chat with Stream and to our Flutter application. Very nice. Everything is working very smoothly. In the next video, we're going to add more features to this chat, and we're going to add exchanging the production token for Stream chat, making that ready for production release. See you in the next chapter.